Hey everyone, so we're going to be doing a deck tech today because, well, we're entering a new phase in this standard format. We're having Amonkhet enter, and it's bringing like a whole bunch of artifact hate, and then there's also some like more combo hate against the Healy combo decks. So, you know, it's just a good time all around. We got new tools to use and new set and cycling and all this other sweet stuff. The brew that I made that we're going to be looking at is Blue-Black Cycling Control. Now, it's a pretty standard draw-go control style deck with only like 6 creatures in it. There's not that many win cons at all, but it's mostly just cycling, and like I said before, it's draw go, so lots of drawing, lots of passing, and then cycling at the end of turn, or using the cards for whichever purpose that you may need to use, with some other control cards in there like counter spells and removal and stuff like that, and a few finishers. Like, they're not the most conventional, but they're very synergistic with cycling itself. So for any of you that aren't aware, I'm running a contest, and I'm sure that a lot of you aren't aware because the video in which I describe the contest only has 100 views or less than 100 views at the time of making this video. So yeah, hey everyone, if you want to win some Amonkhet booster packs, you know, click the link down below and check out my VidMe channel. It's essentially the same thing as YouTubing. All you need to do is follow me there, which is the same as subscribing. And if you do that, you get the chance of winning some Amonkhet booster packs. And given how many followers I actually have on that site currently, there's a good chance that you'll get some Amonkhet boosters. So just go fucking do it.
What are you waiting for? Do it! Yes, you can! Just do it!
For the first creature in our deck, we're going to be playing a 3 of Archfiend of Ifnir. Now, Archfiend here, for his stats with how much he costs in mana, the rate isn't like too fantastic. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, we'll definitely play it since it's already in the deck, but it's decent. It's nothing like to write home about, but its other abilities, what he has, is what makes him playable for us. Not only does he have cycling, which is already great for what our deck wants to be doing in the first place, it also, if we can get this Archfiend on the board and if it can stay, it essentially turns into this really awesome Yahenni's Expertise, and until of end of turn like Yahenni's Expertise would, it's -1/-1 counters instead. So yeah, I think it's just way better just because it can stick out over turns, and like it can save your ass if you're like getting pummeled with Heart of Kiran's, and you can knock it down from a 4/4 to a 2/2. And for our last creature in the deck, we're playing the 3 of Curator of Mysteries. Now, Curator of Mysteries here, his rate for what he costs is like, it's pretty great. You know, you pay 4 mana, you get a 4/4 flyer in blue. Usually that comes with a drawback of some sort, but at least with here, it's all upside. So yeah, not only do we get a 4/4 flying for 4, we also get cycling for a single blue, which is really great in the early game. If, you know, Curator is just sitting dead in our hand and we don't have enough lands to cast it, we can just cycle it away. And like Archfiend of Ifnir, if we can get him on the board, we can start cycling stuff, and instead of dealing damage, we get to scry one, so it's pseudo card advantage to help us find stuff to make sure that we can win the game. For the next set of cards, we're going to be going over the payoffs, the real win conditions of the deck, more or less, and we're going to start with the full playset of Drake Haven. So for 3 mana, we get this enchantment where whenever we cycle or discard a card, we get a 2/2 flyer, and like at that rate, paying 2 mana for a 2/2 flyer, because that's essentially what it is. We're not going to be discarding cards that often in the deck at all. We're just going to be cycling, or we have some cards that cycle for a single blue mana. So for like 1 mana at any point, we could get a 2/2 flyer. So that's way better than what like Talrand's Invocation could do, or Talrand's Sky Summoner. I don't know if anyone remembers those cards. Commander players, you probably know that, because let's be honest, the Talrand Commander deck is fucking sweet. But yeah, with Drake Haven here, like, this is pretty much one of the best win conditions that we could have for this deck. Yeah, we have some flying bodies that we could cast, but with Drake Haven, especially since it's an enchantment, it's already kind of hard to kill with removal unless they have like natural state in the main board, and no one has that. As such, we're going to be playing a 2 of Faith of the Devoted. Now, this card is kind of the same as Lightning Rift, but not really, but kinda. Okay, so for 3 mana, we get this enchantment where whenever we cycle or discard a card, just like Drake Haven or Archfiend of Ifnir, we get to drain for 2. Like, they lose 2 and we gain 2. So whenever we cycle, we get to just pretty much gain our life back that we might have lost in the earlier turns by getting beat in the face with like Heart of Kiran's or anything else. I can't think of any other creatures currently, but you understand what I mean. Like, this card can help us come back in the late or mid game to help us recuperate, so that way we can actually catch up and win potentially. And not only that, but this also serves as a win con. If we can just get our engine going, this card will kill our opponent over the course of, like, let's say 10 cycles. Let's say they're at 20 life. We have, I think, 17 cycling cards in the deck, so I mean, it won't be that realistic to kill it with this card, but it will help significantly, especially if we can already have like a Drakehaven on board or any of our other flying threats. And for the last win con of our deck, we're playing a card that I hold very near and dear to my heart, and that's a one of Rise from the Tides. So Rise from the Tides, you know, it got its popularity from the Brain in the Jar decks, and I also posted another deck tech from the previous format trying to go over this card, and there, like, people have been trying to make this card work, and I feel like with the cycling deck, whether or not it's this blue-black deck or another whatever cycling deck, I feel like this is the home from Rise from the Tides, because all we need for this card to be good is to have instants and sorceries in our graveyard, and, well, this deck has 30 spells in it, all of which are instants and sorceries, all of which, well, a lot of them have cycling, which is a very easy way to get those into the graveyard. So whenever we cast Rise from the Tides, you know, we wouldn't even need to cast all that stuff or need cards like Pieces from the Puzzle just to get a card like this online. It's very synergistic with our deck. So I mean, like, it's not overtly powerful, which is why we're only playing one copy in the deck, but you know, if they just keep killing our stuff over and over again, we can just slam this down and then just like overwhelm our opponents with like a whole bunch of 2/2s if we manage to back it up with counterspell magic, or if they're tapped out or some sort of situation like that. Otherwise, they're just going to fumigate us, and it's going to be a real fucking bad day. So now that we've gone over all of our payoffs and win cons from the deck, let's go over the rest of the cycling stuff, and we're first going to start off with a playset of Censor. So Censor here is 4 spike, but costs a little bit more, but it also has cycling, so it can be a cantrip at any time that we want, provided we have the blue mana for it, or it can be a 2 mana 4 spike, so we can slam this down turn 2 or 3 or 4 and just keep our opponents off of their mana while we can, like, get our engine online. Normally I would not be playing a card like this because, I mean, having a 4 spike for 2 is just kind of really bad, but it having cycling not only like works with the strategy of our deck, but it can also just turn the dead card into a moderate cantrip. Next up, we have a playset of Hieroglyphic Information. So for 4 mana, we get to draw 2 cards at instant speed. That's not really that great of a rate at all, to be honest. Like, this is pretty much junk, but in our deck, because it has that cycling ability, that's why we'd want to play this card over something like Glimmer of Genius, for example. Because, I mean, with Glimmer, we get to scry 2 and draw 2. We could effectively see 4 cards for 4 mana, but with this, it's either 2 cards or 1 card, but it has that added flexibility of being able to cast it for a single mana, so it's not really that terrible on like a scale of like 1 to 10. It's like a 4. It's below average. It's nothing to write home about. So I mean, it only goes in a deck like this. If we weren't playing a cycling control deck, this is just pretty much limited only. And for the last cycling card in our deck, we run a 3 of Unburden. Now, Unburden here is kind of a worse Mind Rot, but not really, because I mean, Mind Rot also costs 3 mana, but with this card instead of having to pay 2 and a black, we have to pay 1 and double black instead, but we also get the added benefit of cycling. So whether or not we want our opponent to discard 2 cards, if we know they have 2 live cards in their hand or whatever, or we can just cycle it for 2 generic mana. We don't even need blue mana, which is kind of the best part about this card, to be honest, because I mean, while a lot of our cycling stuff does require a single blue mana, being able to cycle for 2 generic mana in some cases is just generally better, because we might only have 2 swamps on board. So if we get stuck in a shitty situation like that, well, we get cards like this and Archfiend of Ifnir, and I think that's the only other cycling card that doesn't cost blue mana, but I could be wrong. Regardless, Unburden here, for what it does in addition with its cycling, it's fine enough for the deck. Then again, if we weren't playing a blue-black cycling deck, this card probably would not be considered playable like at all. So moving into the actual control stuff of the deck, we have a full playset of Grasp of Darkness, and this card, you know, it could pretty much nail every relevant creature in the format, and like Heart of Kirin, even though I've said that like a million times in this video before, it can hit virtually everything else, like Whining Constrictor if it isn't fat, or pretty much just anything. Especially since it's instant speed, it makes it so much better. And like, public enemy number one for me is Hardy Kieran, and I can't get that damn card out of my head, and I just need to stop thinking about that stupid fucking card. Fuck Hardy Kieran, Jesus Christ. And for our next removal spell, we run a 2 of Ruinous Path. Now, Ruinous Path here, 3 mana sorcery, destroy target creature or planeswalker. It's not really that great, but hey, there's a lot of Gideons running around, there's a lot of Saheelis running around, so you know, that's more than enough reason for me to want to run planeswalker removal in the first place. I really wish Wizards would like release a double black instant speed, just like double black in instant speed, destroy target planeswalker. That would be perfect. But instead we have to deal with Ruinous Path here, and you know, we'll take what we can get. We also run a 1 of Dispossess because, well, as I've been bitching about Hardy Kieran before, we need another way to take care of artifact cards, and blue-black just doesn't have that many great ways of dealing with artifacts in the first place, other than like countering them when they hit the board or anything like that. So Dispossess helps out significantly, especially since we don't really have that good of an effect like that in Standard. We have Lost Legacy, but if I remember correctly, that can't hit artifact cards, as where Dispossess hits artifacts specifically. So that's why I kind of want to prioritize that card, just because Mardu Vehicles is like, if not the best deck in the format, the second best deck in the format. So yeah, we need to be able to prepare for that. So that's why we're running 1 in the main and an additional 2 in the sideboard. We're also playing a 1 of Lay Bare the Heart. Now, I'm a really big fan of Transgress the Mind, so whenever I saw Lay Bare the Heart, I was a bit skeptical at first. I was like, why would I just play that since Transgress the Mind can hit legendary creatures? But then I also remembered that there's a lot of relevant threats that are below CMC of 3, so Lay Bare the Heart, even though it can't hit legendary creatures, it can still hit virtually everything else in the format that isn't a land or legendary, obviously. But yeah, I'm just testing out this card. I'm going to see if it's any good or not. I want it to be good. I hope that it's good, but if not, oh well, we still have Transgress, so whatever. Next up, we run a 2 of Void Shatter. Now, I would be playing the other 3 mana counterspell. Oh god, I can't remember what it's called. It's counter target spell or activated ability, but it's in Standard. I can't remember what it's called. We would be playing that over this, but like in terms of budget constraints, just because I wanted to keep it as cheap as possible, we just decided to run Void Shatter instead, just because it's a few bucks cheaper. Plus, we also get that exile effect, so, you know, if there's any Delirium strategies running around, if we need to deal with, like, Ishkana or anything, like, I don't even think that's a threat anymore in Standard, but it might be once, like, vehicles die down, so who knows, exile might be relevant again, but regardless, it's still a decent counterspell. It's a lot better than Cancel is. I mean, like, nobody wants to play with Cancel, right? Like, ugh. And for the last spell of our deck, we run a 2 of Negate. Now, Negate here hits Hardy Kieran, any vehicles, Gideon, Saheeli, pretty much any standard threat that's not a big beefy creature, Negate can take care of, and that's fine. We want to pretty much be able to make sure that we can keep our cycling engine going, so we want to hold on to our Negate for any like enchantment removal or any wraths like Fumigate or anything like that. And if we do run into situations like that, we do have more in the sideboard, so it's not like we're totally fucked or anything like that. But I really like Negate. I value it highly amongst all the counterspells available in Standard. You know, there is other options available like Insidious Will and stuff like that, but I just, for its rate and for how much it costs and like what it does, I just think Negate is pretty much the best that we can get in terms of 2 mana counterspells in Standard. Alright, so moving on to the boring stuff in the deck, the lands, we have like 8 islands and 6 swamps, whoop-de-doo, freaking basics. We're also running a playset of Fetid Pools because, I mean, yeah, it's a blue-black duel that enters tapped, but it cycles. So, you know, we'll take what we can get. It's another cycling card. It's synergistic with our plan. It's just great. It's fantastic. I wish if there were 8 of them, I'd play 8 of them. Fuck it, why not? Just play like 20 of them. Let's play 5-color cycling. That sounds great. We're also running a 4 of Sunken Hollow, and, you know, we get that added benefit of it being a duel because we also play Choked Estuary, so, you know, there's that. But, yeah, Sunken Hollow, it's probably going to be entering tapped most of the time anyway, so it's not like it really matters. And for our final land, we're running a 2 of Choked Estuary, so Choked Estuary is probably the worst dual land in Standard besides the tapped, enters the battlefield tapped lands that are like uncommons from, I don't know, like, oh god, what was it? Oath of the Gatewatch, I think it is, or whatever. It's like that, but just a smidge better. Just a smidge. It's just a smidge better. It's just a smidge better. Just a smidge. Alright, so moving into the sideboard, we bring in 2 more Dispossess against like any vehicle decks because, well, I mean, is there any other rampant like artifact strategies? Oh yeah, there's Colossus decks. I made like 3 deck techs on that, 2 of them. Jeez, I have really fucking terrible memory. Sorry. Yeah, we bring in Dispossess against the vehicle decks. We bring it against the Metalwork Colossus decks or like any other strategy where artifacts is an issue. I don't know if Panharmonicon might come back, but if you see a Panharmonicon deck across from you, you know this would be a sweet card to sideboard in. We're also playing 2 more Lay Bare at the Heart, and we bring these in against like any strategies where we just want to rip stuff out of our opponent's hand. Like Cat Combo, you know, we can take out Saheeli or Felidar Guardian before they have the chance to cast it. So, you know, it's decent enough, but if it's not better than Transgressimind, if you play this deck, then just play Transgressimind, but otherwise this card seems fine. We're also playing 2 more of Negate, and we bring this in against like Mardu vehicles. We can also bring it in against Cat Combo, so that way it can help take care of like Saheeli's or anything like that, or any blue-red Dynavolt control decks. This card also works really well against that. It pretty much nails like 98% of what's in that deck besides the Torrential Gear Hulks. So, you know, it's fine, it's whatever. It's not like I already said it's the best 2-mana counterspell printed in Standard, and I'm just really redundant, repeating myself over and 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 over. We're also playing a 2 of Essence Scatter, and we bring these in against like big beefy creature strategies. I don't know if there really is any in Standard right now, but this card seems playable enough. Again, this is also kind of like an alpha build, so everything here can like be changed like on a whim. Like, I don't know, who knows, like the ban and restricted list hasn't come out yet, and if it just comes out and like bans Felidar Guardian and like Heart of Kiran, then I think this deck would kind of need a little bit of restructuring, but Essence Scatter seems fine. If creatures get more relevant in the format, it might even be main board playable. If not, like, you might want to introduce more copies in your sideboard, so who knows, if creatures become a big issue, then Essence Scatter just gets better. We're also playing a 3 of Scarab Feast. Now, Scarab Feast, it has Graveyard Hate in it, but I mean, it's not the best, but it's probably the best that we have in Standard, because Wizards just has this issue with printing Graveyard Hate for some reason. Let's just be really glad that Emrakul's banned, because holy shit, it would be like a shit show if this was the best card that could handle Emrakul, or like the graveyard in general is just ugh. But yeah, we can exile up to 3 cards from a graveyard, or we can cycle. I almost said scry. This is like the 3rd time I've mistaken cycled with scrying and filming. It's messing with my head, just like having scrying and cycling and scrying and cycling. But yeah, we get that added benefit of cycling, so yeah, it's pretty sweet. And for our last sideboard card, we're playing a full playset of Trespasser's Curse. Now, the curse here is hate against the Saheeli combo, because this just straight up just destroys it. If we can get this on the board and they don't have a way to remove it, whereas like, let's compare this to Authority of the Consuls, for example. If we play Authority of the Consuls, they can still make a million cat tokens, and like the next turn they can swing and still kill us. Well, with this curse, instead we play it, and if they try to make a million tokens, well, they're just going to take a damage each time. So, you know, if we're in this situation where, you know, they can't pay enough life to kill us, this card is just, it's fine, it's wonderful. Even if they do make enough copies to still kill us and they get their life down to a significantly like low amount, we can just play the I can't remember the name right now, the 3-mana enchantment. Whenever we cycle, we drain for 2 to just finish them off that way. So this card here definitely helps us out against the cat combo decks, and like maybe it doesn't warrant having a full 4 copies in the sideboard, because like now that I think about it, we're playing a cycling deck, but that cat combo deck just is really hard to deal with in the first place, and having an enchantment like this is just, it feels invaluable to fight against that kind of strategy. So what do you all think of the deck? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it mediocre? Is it Let me know in the comments down below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Anyways, I'm Tasty Snackies. You all have been wonderful, and I'll catch you on the flip side.